Kelley M. Frank is a horror artist, author, and reviewer. She has appeared in a number of horror anthologies, including Slice Girls. She's also completed interior art and or lettering for books Zealot by C. Von Zell Lewis. She's also an asexual witch, Horror Writers Association affiliate, and an outspoken advocate for the strange and unusual. Kelley, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a good Friday. If you like what I've got, you can check me out at morbidsmile.com. And I'm going to read from my anthology that hasn't quite come out with. This is from the flagship story, The Mortician's Secret. Although his name sometimes put off the average passerby, Kyle Zernt was still the best mortician in town. He was always discreet and, without fail, managed to care for his clients in a sympathetic and financially viable way. He was quiet, polite, and, most importantly, local. This made a big difference in a small town where everyone knew his daddy and granddaddy, and sometimes still talked about them as though they still worked his job. Granddad had been dead for years, and his own father had retired from the business, but the name Zernt made locals think of the Zernt and Son mortuary. It was as ingrained as the Saving Grace Baptist Church or the annual Christmas parade, and for good reason. When the Chamber's son had been eviscerated by a malfunctioning chainsaw, for example, Kyle had made an open casket funeral possible. Those in attendance had remarked that the boy looked as though he could have stood up and started laughing at any moment, which was exactly the point. Makeup and skill were magical in the right hands, and Kyle was a product of generation-spanning expertise. His father had been an odd man in his own right. A collector of exotic and sometimes rare trinkets in his spare time, the sort that didn't get moved to display shelves in reputable museums. Morbid things, but those are the kind of interests one hones in a job like this. Dad owned a small collection of shrunken heads, various wet specimens, animals and organs suspended in alcohol and sealed jars, but also, most importantly, folders full of notes and drawings he'd made while drinking his way across the world after Mom died. There was no telling where the original ideas had come from, no dates or place names. Most were trash, smeared with alcohol and time, but Kyle couldn't resist reading a few lines first. They were in his father's chunky fifth-grade level penmanship. The level of vocabulary made it clear that it hadn't been a novel. Dad wasn't nearly as creative as he'd like to believe before the Alzheimer's began eating his brain. Copied, most likely, and from some text his father hadn't been allowed to purchase. There was no indication of where it came from or even of the original title. The collection of wide-ruled pages might have been mistaken for any other rubbish. What he read there at first seemed like one of Dad's weird jokes, but he'd taken the notes home anyway. There really hadn't been much of substance to keep from his father's place, and seeing Dad's handwriting as it had been before the degeneration made him sad. Normally, he'd have spent his evening preparing dinner, playing with his cat, and watching an old movie before bed. Instead, he grabbed a frozen meal, ignored the cat, and didn't sleep until hours later than he should have. He pieced the pages in their proper order and read the whole manuscript in one evening. What he read disgusted him. The crude drawings of supposed magic circles, the instructions to do mad things like create an article of clothing from the deceased, talking to the dead, cannibalism? When he finished it, his heart was racing. He put the pages on his nightstand and went to bed. His dreams were strange, but of course they were after reading something like that. Still, he woke feeling better than he had in days, and, in his opinion, far more clear-sighted. He spent the morning working through the remaining legal proceedings for his father's transfer to hospice care before his first appointment arrived. He didn't have any caskets in stock that appealed to the grieving father, so Kyle walked Sunny Green through the process with the more reputable dealers online. The less trouble a grieving father went to for his 18-year-old son, killed in a car crash by an alcoholic like so many others his age, the better it was for all involved. The poor young boy, Al Green, had been in the running for the Draves draft pick. He'd worked hard for the glory and was rumored to be one of the best and most gregarious players for the team since John Smoltz. And then, While leaving a downtown play with a group of his GSU friends, a drunk driver had forgotten to stop for the pedestrians. It had happened within moments, and in front of the rest of the theater crowd. The police got a slew of 911 calls all at once, but none of it mattered. Promising young Al Green had been struck head on. His upper torso was through the windshield, his legs twitching for an agonizingly long time to those on the scene. The driver had instantly sobered up, adding to the group calling 911. Despite the prompt ambulance response and the fact that Crawford Long Hospital was just across the street, Al Green had been dead by the time help had arrived. Some things couldn't be fixed, no matter how long the doctors worked or how much time family and friends spent praying for their loved one's survival. The boy's father was doing well, given everything, navigating the website, until an ad popped up for lawn care. It featured a smiling preteen boy with a baseball bat slung over his shoulder and a glove in one hand, his ball cap at a jaunty angle. Kyle suggested some coffee, and Mr. Green quickly agreed, fingering a pack of cigarettes. There was no smoking indoors, of course, so Kyle poured 2 mugs of the brew he kept ready for these moments and stood on the front porch as Mr. Green smoked. They didn't say anything, but there really wasn't much to talk about. When they went back inside, it was as though nothing had happened. Later, before he left, Mr. Green took Kyle's hand. He didn't have to say anything, so neither of them did. Kyle knew what Sonny Green would have done with the notes his father had taken. So just stopping here, I really am happy that if you guys like this, this will be up for pre-order pretty soon, and this short story collection will be out in October. And again, you can find me at morbidsmile.com. I've got a newsletter and all kinds of stuff. So thank you.